Hello, and welcome to another episode of my Type 35 build. So, call it progress, an unending stream of brilliance, whatever, but the wrenches have been turning, both righty-tighty and lefty-loosey. What do you say we cut to the chase, though, and get to the good stuff? Like the interior. Oh my lucky stars! The car has seats! Ooh, that looks kind of pretty right there. Okay, back to the seats. And why don't we start with the bottoms first? The seat panels had been done for some time, waiting for the heavy fabrication to end so I could start on the softer stuff. The bases are wood and have the drive shaft tunnel halves attached to them. Over that, I cut and shaped the seat foam to fit the curve in the body, sewed some fabric around it all, and voila, seat bottoms. The way they work is when you pull the seat bases, the tunnel halves come out with them, lets you get to all the cool stuff under the seats, like the battery, tools, what have you. I also got the belts installed, latch and link type, because, come on, modern push-button latches would have been so gauche. The seat back, though, is made of a solid panel, like a bench seat, but I cut and trimmed the foam so when the finished upholstery is installed, it'll look like a pair of split seats rather than one monolithic bench. The foam's pretty cool. Hobby stores carry foam padding, but it's just foam. This stuff comes in various densities, so I ordered a couple different selections from a supply house and was able to balance the compression of the back cushions to the base cushions to get the seats to feel a lot more comfortable. Then I broke out the fabric welding machine again and out popped a completed interior. It's got a bit of a relaxed fit going on, but these are just patterns, so they're not pulled down tight or anything. I also had to do a bit of trimming to the leading edge of the boat tail, where the seat cushions fall back under it, to straighten out the reveal and get it looking spiffy. Oh, and the outside upper corner of the seat back, I cut and turned the seam to fall back under the bodywork. If you know more about Type 35s than any reasonably sane person should, then you know what's in store. But, for now, the seat back is blocking from sight the belly pan that's been installed to enclose the bottom of the boat tail. So, if we get around, you can look between the axle and the bodywork, just in front of the tube, way down in the darkness. You can just make out where the belly pan passes under the axle. If you can see that little radius, it gives just the slightest hint as to what runs under the car. See, rather than having the pan pass straight across the opening, I decided to pull a return into it. I think when the car's finished, it'll be another really neat detail. However, the attention grabber in front of the axle, that'd be the new quarter panel. I don't know what else to call it. It's a panel that takes up the lower quarter of the boat tail. It's there because the pass-through for the original suspension and drivetrain rested in that area and was just an awkward section of fiberglass, so I cut it out and replaced it with aluminum, 1/8" thick aluminum, because I wanted it to match the thickness of the surrounding fiberglass. Most aluminum body panels are made out of soft 60,000th sheet that's been annealed. Not this. Full strength. Beat into shape with nothing but a 2x4, a hammer, and sheer determination. The whole thing is just one big compound curve. It follows the bend in the body lengthwise. It rolls down and matches the body shape with a sharp roll at the rocker. I attached it using a continuous hinge. The Type 35s, over time, started receiving access panels to get to various mechanical bits, and I thought the hinge sort of captured that spirit, which I think is kind of fun. Then the brake lines were installed and ta-da! Another fun bit was the world's cutest license plate bracket. Isn't that just the most adorable thing you've ever seen? It's the same thickness as a license plate, 30 thousandths or something like that, bent to clear the fasteners that hold the taillights on. It's offset a bit, kind of asymmetrical looking, but when the plate's on, it's centered between the body and the tire. It looks pretty good for a license plate. Let's see, what else have I carved on? Oh, I cut and bent a pair of tabs that attach the body sides together. They support the panel from both sides, keeps the gap from pinching you in the elbow. I figure the Type 35s had them, so, you know, if it's good enough for them. Continuing our stroll down fabrication lane brings us to the front apron. Let me move in front of the car so we can get a look. So, the brake lines, electrical harness, the horn, they're all attached to the forward cross member that runs just in front of the grille and needed an apron to conceal it all. So, a bit of cutting, trimming, some knee work, and an apron appeared. It starts on the back of the frame with a pair of splash pans that cover the void between the chassis and the body. Those lead forward to the apron itself, where the return is a quick dodge that rises up from the frame at the shock and flows to a crest at the grille, then transitions into the forward apron body. From there, it cascades down to a bullnose on the leading edge and, believe it or not, runs straight back over the axle, drops down, and closes off the forward edge of the rocker panels. One complete aluminum fascia. Well, it's two pieces. There's a seam and some hardware hidden underneath so it can be installed and removed easier, but the cool thing about the front apron is called forced perspective. These fiberglass jobs, the grille has a flange that runs around the forward edge like a picture frame. And when your eyes see the flange at the bottom of the shell, you know the grille is too short, so it looks wrong. Now, the Type 35's radiator continued down past the apron, and your brain accepts that as right. So I built the apron with a lip that I tucked over the bottom of the grille shell to hide the flange, creating the same illusion, that the radiator keeps going just like an original. Isn't that cool? Oh, and if I get over, you can look below the frame, just where the lower apron meets the rocker panel, that little silver bit just behind the axle. Original Type 35s were bullet-nosed, which is really cool if you ever get a look under one, but mine's a pretty good-looking flat panel. The rockers just didn't allow for too much creativity, and I needed clearance for the steering. What else do we got going on? Oh, this was a neat little piece of serendipity. In the driver's side hood panel, when it was fixed to the scuttle, there was a hole cut to pass the steering shaft through. I wasn't going to use it, so I had to cover it. I had all the remainders from when I cut some of the fat out of the body, and I took a couple of pieces, laid them out, and kept turning them until I found one that matched the curve in the hood. Cut it to fit, epoxied it in place, and one patch panel made to order. Looks shockingly good for being made out of a piece that came from a totally different part of the body. Okay, I've probably teased you enough walking around, so let's talk about the hood straps. Oh yeah, probably the thing on the car that makes it look the most racy. And it doesn't hurt that they're pretty too. I made the straps. Okay, so there's a prevailing opinion that any equestrian shop can get you a strap for like 15 bucks. Right, they can. The straps cost about 15 bucks per strap, raw. And it takes 3 complete straps to make both assemblies, plus cutting, trimming, shaping, punching, dyeing, edging, fitting the buckles and loops, fabricating and attaching the hold-down hardware. A hood strap for an original Type 35 is not going to cost $15. Knowing that, what I did was kind of neat. I bought a half dozen really nice, real leather men's belts and used them to make the hood straps. Where they meet in the center of the hood, I cut and stitched them together with the same thread as the seats. And unless you're up on it, the belts look like one piece. And even up close, I kind of like the stitches. The hardware, though, was the nice part. Type 35 straps had a nice end and an ugly end. One side had really nice hardware, and the other was just cut and screwed to the body. I decided to have nice ends on both sides of the body, so I got some threaded rod, clevises, rod-end bolts, all aviation stuff, and created my own adjustable hold-downs that attach the straps to the body, which allows me to thread the belts up and down to adjust their tension. Couple it with the hardware that come on the belts to begin with, and the rivets attaching it all, and it looks just like it should. Well, almost just like it should. Given this is a 50-year-old fiberglass body, there were some complications. So, down low on the hood, you can see what looks like quarter-turn fasteners, but they're not. They're actually aluminum thumb screws that I drilled and fitted with chrome D-rings to make them look like quarter turns, but without having the bulky hardware behind the panel. And if we get up close, there's a small notch cut into the hood. I had to do it. The hood just wouldn't pass over the strap hardware. So, a little mouse hole relieved into the hood side, and she clears the clevis slick as a whistle. Back at the rear, you can see how the hold-down hardware is longer than the front. The turnbuckle section extends down further away from the end of the strap to the clevis, where it attaches to the body. If we back up, though, you can see this is done to keep the straps more symmetrical looking, despite the difference in the lower mounting locations. And you can also see how minimally the hole for the fastener affects the appearance of the hood. Even up front, it's just a tiny suggestion that there's something lurking from behind. So, with the clevis pins removed, I can sheet and just pick up the belts rather than unbuckling the straps. Probably spoils the fun of watching me fumble with the buckles, but it lets me reveal the hood stays. So, these are some real simple aluminum tabs that capture the straps to keep them in place on the hood. Up close, you can see how I bent and shaped them real svelte-like and attached them to the hood with Allen bolts. I love how much these things look like rivets. But, get the hood lifted up and laid back, and ta-da! An engine compartment. And a pretty good looking one too. If we look back though, on the bulkhead bracket is the minimalistic riv nut the hold down screw threads into. Up front though, I had to fab up a bracket. It sets in and matches the angle and slope of the hood as it crosses the splash pan. But when you back up, I am not a fan of having that tab stuck up there. It just doesn't look right. It's a nice enough tab, simple, unintrusive-ish, but Type 35s didn't have them, so it looks out of place to me. But if we get down and look across at the passenger side, you can see not only the splash pan that turns and attaches to the lower rocker, but the hood tab on the passenger side is upside down. What I did was, I built the tabs so they were removable and reversible. So, tab up when the hood needs to stay down, tab down at a show when the hood's up and needs to retain an authentic look. Something else to look at on the passenger side is that big white line running up the hood. Oh, and that little tab too, because there's another one of those on the rear of the hood. Those are reinforcement tabs for the hood strap stays on the outside. But that white line, that runs all the way down. Let me close the hood real quick, or as quickly as I can, and move the hood belts back. Come on, get over the motometer and put it into the stays. And over on the passenger side, it looks the same as the driver's. Belts, hardware, everything. But what you can't see is the cut line in the hood. Back in the day, it was cut a couple inches short of the grill, which didn't work for me at all. So, did I remove the rear clevis pin? Okay. So, both of them are on there. Let me grab the front one, pull it off, and now the back one. And with the belts moved off the hood and onto the scuttle and the grill shell, you can see up front how the belt hides the seam that's been spliced back together and epoxied to keep it in one nice happy piece. Back to the tabs though. Lift the hood and set it back. You can see immediately how much better looking the whole presentation is without the hood tab pointing up in the way. Shocking how a couple thumb screws made the view into the engine compartment so much cleaner looking. And your view into the engine compartment has to be clean. I mean, we've got our standards here. Oh, and speaking of tabs, I got another one mounted in the passenger's compartment. You got to see this. So, under the passenger seat is the front close-off panel. Did I mention I fabbed up and installed the new seat close-off panels? Not only that, but in front of the passenger side panel, next to the drive shaft tunnel, is the tab I built for the parking brake detent. So, you've got the parking brake handle itself, made of aluminum, all nice and smooth to the touch. It runs back to the pivot and cable mechanism, but if I can get down in here, you can get a closer look at the detent that locks the parking brake in place. So rather than a button and pause and all that, I decided simple was the best solution and carved out an aluminum plate that has notches cut in it to catch the parking brake handle. So when it's down, there's the lower notch that keeps it from bouncing around. And to set the parking brake, you lift the handle up and rest it in the upper notch and parking brake engaged. Kind of cool, race car simple sort of setup. But there it is. All the news that's fit to print. Join me next time when No, you're going to have to wait for that.